Attention to the front. I respect all of your time. So thank you all so much for being here, and we're going to get started. So first things first, welcome. We're so excited that you all are here. We're doing really important work through participatory budgeting. We're helping empower the community, you all, to spend $3 million of ARPA funding. The goals for this process are to spend funds in high-need areas and really have an impact that might not be had otherwise. We're also hoping to develop civic leaders. So some of you all have been very engaged in the city over the last several years or whatever, but for some of you this is your first time, and we're really excited to have all of you here to help support this process and make sure it works, because it does not work without you. So the goals for today, I know some of you maybe have already decided you want to be a budget delegate, maybe you haven't, but the goals for today is really to decide if you want to be a budget delegate and maybe what area you're most interested in. Decide if you want to be a facilitator, because each issue committee is going to need 1 or 2 facilitators to make sure the meetings are running as they should and keep progressing forward. And we're also hoping to find times for facilitator trainings for those who are decide they want to be facilitators, and future budget delegate meetings. So we haven't sent you all information on what the budget delegate meetings, or the times for the budget delegate meetings, because we're hoping to have your help in doing that so we can make sure it's a time that works for everyone. So today I'm going to review a little bit of the participatory budgeting process, and overview what we're going to be doing during proposal development. Then we can have a little bit of question and answer, and then you all will have an opportunity to choose what issue committee you would like to be on, and kind of practice prioritizing ideas so you get an idea of what we're doing, I guess, what we're going to be doing during the budget delegate process, and then move on to the next steps of the process. And for choosing issue committees and prioritizing ideas, one of our technical assistants from Northwestern, Matt Easterday, is going to be helping lead that process. The technical assistants have been tremendously important to the success of this process, so I'm really grateful to them, and they're going to continue to help us as we progress. And when we're having these discussions, there are a couple norms that I would like to raise. The point is to hear and be heard, so both of those are important. Assume best intentions when people are saying things. Don't yuck my yum means basically respect different perspectives. And when you are confused by something, again, assume best intentions and ask clarifying questions or share stories about how your perspective might be different. Everyone in this room is going to have the opportunity to learn from each other, which is really exciting. And so please bring a learning mindset, and as well respect the time of the process. Now, moving to a quick overview of participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting is a democratic process where community members decide how to spend part of a public budget. This has been done, it started first in Brazil, and it's been done throughout the United States and throughout the world. This is the first time Evanston is attempting to do it. There have been previous processes attempting to get public engagement in the budget process. One that this has been confused with is priority-based budgeting, but this is different than that because community members are directly deciding how to spend the funds. It's not just input. So this is an example of a PD timeline where we design the process, go through idea collection, which we just finished, develop proposals, which we're going to do now, and then towards the fall we're going to vote, and then the winning proposals will be funded. a little bit more detail designing the process. The Steering and Leadership Committee, which is a group of community members, designed a rulebook to help guide the process, and the rulebook defines how the process will work. It's online at pbevanston.org, and it's also available at the City of Evanston's website. And may I please stop and have any leadership or steering committee members raise their hand, just so as we look around, we know kind of who was involved in this process. Yeah. Great, thank you. And then we did the idea collection phase, where we collect ideas, sign up budget delegates, and anyone could participate in this process. We had 9 events. I think it was maybe even 11 events across Evanston, which was really exciting. I know there's a later slide that talks about some of the numbers that we were able to achieve, but I just want to raise them now. So we had 11 events throughout Evanston, and over 300 people participated in those events. And through those events, yeah, thanks, Len. Yeah. And through those events and an online option to submit ideas, we collected over 1,200 ideas for how to spend this money. So it's was really successful and was really exciting. Now, this is the phase that we're in now, and that you all will hopefully decide to help support. So volunteer budget delegates will winnow down that huge list of ideas into 14 proposals that will go on the ballot. Anyone over 14 who lives, works, or studies in Evanston is eligible to participate. There's no experience necessary. Sorry about this. And you all had the opportunity to see how disorganized my homepage is, so don't hold that against me. And what this is going to look like is about 8 meetings and 2 to 3 hours of work a week. That's an estimate. We haven't done this before, so we're not sure how much this is going to take, but we'd rather overestimate than underestimate, because this is an important process. This is an essential part of what we're doing, and I just want to make sure that we have realistic expectations of the work that's involved. And you all will work in budget delegate committees with other community members and receive help from staff to develop the proposals. Then we're going to have the budget delegates again. This is another key part of your responsibility, is to share the proposals that you come up with. So that is going to look like what's called a Project Expo, which is a science fair-like event where budget delegates share the proposals that they are putting on the ballot. And the hope is to get people ready to vote, and the proposals will also be available online. And then we're hoping to vote late summer, early fall. I'm intending to have the leadership and steering committee decide specific dates in their next meeting. And anyone 14 or older who lives, works, or studies can also vote. And there will be polling locations throughout the city, pop-up polling locations, and there will also be an online vote with no ID required. And then the winning proposals will be funded. So this is the slide that I was referencing. So the volunteers from PB Evanston and the technical assistants were able to host 50-ish pop-up outreach events. So they were out in the community collecting ideas, sharing participatory budgeting, and through that they were able to sign up approximately 1,800 people to the participatory budgeting list, which is really exciting. So I don't know if anyone started to clap, but that's really exciting, number 2. And we were able to hold 12 idea collection assemblies. Over 300 people participated in those assemblies, and we collected over 1,000 ideas. So it was very successful, and I was really pleased with that result. And that is due in large part to the technical assistants, who I mentioned earlier, and also the participatory budgeting staff. Celia Carlino, the participatory budgeting coordinator, and Ndona Mubuyai, who is the participatory budgeting field manager. And I'm not sure if I introduced myself. Please don't feel like you need to applaud, but I'm Matt Orrin. I'm the participatory budgeting manager. I think through all that collective effort, and of course the effort of the volunteers, we were able to achieve those results that we're really excited about. I would like to pause here to see if there are any questions about the participatory budgeting process so far.
How were the ideas sorted into these categories, and who did that?
The question was, how were the ideas sorted into these categories, the issue committees, and who did that? So, they were sorted into these categories roughly by a person who basically does it professionally, and by the technical assistant team. And the leadership committee reviewed the different areas, or different issue committees, and the leadership committee made the final decision about what leadership or what issue committees there should be. So yeah. Any other questions about the process so far? I'm working on wait time, but
Yeah. Whenever we're working on the process, it's like you said, 2 to 3 hours a week. Is that like independent work, or is that meeting groups?
the question was, is it independent, the 2 to 3 hours a week, is it independent or meeting in our groups? And the answer is that it's a mix. So some of it will require independent research, that you just go, maybe you, if you're on the Parks and Recreation, maybe your task for that week is to go check out some of the parks and what areas might be most need. And but there might be other times where you're asked to be in a meeting, right, for example. So it's a mix.
Are you confined to one committee option, or can you go to other committees?
So are you confined to one committee, or can you be in multiple? And the answer is you should choose one committee, because we have so many wonderful folks that are excited to help. So please try and pick one.
I'm just wondering about selecting the ideas and like the filters for judging whether or not an idea is a good one. I think one of the things you said on your first slide was something about the greatest need or the most impact. Like, how do you measure that and determine that like objectively?
The question about selecting areas of most need objectively, and I think there's a process. In the process, each idea will require co-sponsors to support ideas. So there, I think through the research, the community members will hopefully decide, but it's not necessarily objective, because you all are the folks doing it. It's a community-led process. So there's a process for you all to decide which ones you want to move forward, but I don't think we could necessarily say it's objective, because you all are deciding what is best, and we're all people, so. Yeah. Okay, great. And I think a lot of the questions have been about proposal development, so I'm going to get moving on that, and we'll see if that answers any additional questions. So the timeline for proposal development is we're hoping to have the ballot by July 23rd, and each proposal, the end result, must be a short description of what the proposal is and the budget for that, and the proposal must be feasible within the given budget and respond to a community need. This is sort of the timeline that we're looking at. So right now you can see we're doing orientation, which is really exciting to get started, and then through orientation we're going to hopefully recruit facilitators and do a facilitator training, and then we'll have meetings to prioritize top projects, and then in March we're hoping to have meetings where we share research and develop proposals, and then those ideas will go through sort of a pre-vetting where I take them to relevant staff members and they kind of review just to get some feedback early on in the process. And then there will be another meeting in April where we share research and shortlist projects. And then those will go into a more thorough vetting process with city staff. And I think one important note is that city staff are going to comment on whether or not they think, basically help decide if it's feasible. But you all are the deciders, so they're there to help you as much as possible, but you all are the folks that are making the important decisions. So then in May, we're hoping to meet with staff and then discuss the feedback with staff, then go through another vetting phase where the projects are winnowed down a little bit more, meet with the staff again, and then have a final meeting at the end of June to review city feedback, revise proposals, and then submit the ballot by the end of July. So the meetings that we have going on in short order are orientation, facilitator training, and then, like I said in that timeline, we'll have 5 budget delegate meetings, and then there might be some additional meetings that you can participate in as needed with your group for proposal development, and then there will also be additional meetings to meet with staff after vetting, but the most important ones are the 5 face-to-face budget delegate meetings. And so here are some of the tasks that are also in the rule book. I'm not going to read all of them, but these are the requirements for budget delegates. And so the first one is training, coming to orientation. If you're a facilitator, participating in facilitator training, developing proposals, identifying local problems, consulting with community members on those proposals, and determining eligibility with participatory budgeting staff and committee members and city staff, consulting on the feasibility and cost, developing full proposals, and then prioritizing the final proposals. And then as far as communication, we're expecting you all to prepare proposals for the project expos, and then explain your decision making through documentation and communication with the steering committee and the community at large. So serve as a spokesperson for participatory budgeting, try and get people involved and share what you're working on when called upon, and communicate concerns and ideas with the steering and leadership committee as needed. And then at the bottom, outreach, participate in one or more proposal expo, and then participate in the monitoring and evaluation of the process at the end. So this is all in the rule book that is available online. And so if you want more details, you can access those there. And to participate, as I mentioned before, you need to have a meaningful connection to Evanston, meaning you live, work, study, parent, or are a parent or a business owner in Evanston. You're 14 years or older, and if you're under 18 years old, you need an adult sponsor who's also going to be a budget delegate. So the issue committees that we've been talking about before, these were selected by the Participatory Budgeting Leadership Committee after some review of the ideas and some recommendations from staff and technical assistants. The issue committees are housing, transportation and infrastructure, environment, food and sustainability, healthcare, public health and family support, education, arts, culture and recreation, economic development, and then community building, public safety, justice, governance, and restorative justice. So these issue committees will be assigned a portion of the ideas, but if they see, they'll also receive the whole list of ideas. So if they think they can look at the whole, you all can look at the whole list, and if there's an idea that you think fits well in yours, but it wasn't assigned to you, you can still use that idea. That's okay, because the issue committees are designed to create some structure around what we're doing, but they're not meant to limit what the issue committee does. And so there are some additional guides for what we'll be doing and what you all will be doing. Those are on pbevanston.org/leaders. So on the far right of the pbevanston.org website, there's a leaders section, and you can scroll down to guides on proposal development, writing proposals, and how to facilitate those proposals, and then the project expos. Okay, we made it. Thank you all for bearing with me. And now that I've made it through the proposal development portion, do we have any more questions on proposal development?
What do these proposals look like? I mean, are there 5 pages, 30 pages, or an outline?
Yeah, so I think the end goal will be to have maybe like 5 pages describing, right? It's hard to put a page number on it, but it needs to be something that city can implement. And so I don't know how specific the budget delegates will want to be. So the end result needs to be a paragraph describing it and a budget amount that is feasible. But I don't know how specific each budget delegate committee, issue committee, will want to be on the exact requirements for the proposals. But city staff, if we have an idea and a good budget around that, I think we'll be able to implement it. So I think it's going to be dependent a lot on the idea itself, the proposal, and the constraints that the budget delegates want to put around it, as far as how long. Yeah.
Oh, question. So the devil in the details, and these, I mean, the proposal was really just sort of a start. So it's not going to be our responsibility to put those details in, but think through what a proposal might look like in practice.
I think I understand your question, and your question is that it's not the budget delegate's responsibility to think through the proposals and the details of it, and that is not my understanding of what the budget delegates are supposed to do. My understanding is that budget delegates are supposed to think through all of it and provide as much information as they would like to city staff. So that's my understanding. So they should think through the details.
One way to think about that is that...
One second there.
One way to think about that is that whatever information that you as a budget delegate provide, so you can work with city staff to help get information you need to put in your proposal. right? But whatever information you provide will be presented at one of those presentation sessions that Matt just described in August. And so when people in the city come to vote, they have to be able to look at your presentation, and if they want to, look at your proposal and get a feeling for whether or not they would want to vote for it. So in a way, you want to have in your proposal an idea of like why, right? So some justification for it, some reason why we need this, and who it serves, okay? And so that has to be some level of detail, so that to answer Susan's question about, you know, how are you defining how many people it serves, if you as a budget delegate can articulate who it serves, and it could be it serves everyone, right? Like putting lights in James Park clearly serves a lot of people, for example, right? So you get to define the impact your project has in the proposal. If you say it doesn't impact very many people, when people read that, that's what they're going to take away, right? So you get to define that, and then you have to back that up with something, right? You have to sort of be like, these are the, you know, this many people use Robert Crown Field, for example, and that might be your justification for why we need to put lights up at James Park. So you justify it, you explain what it's going to cost and require to do it, to implement that proposal, right? So lights, this is how much it costs. You got to hire these people to put it up, right? And then you go to city staff, for example, and say, what else do we need to put lights up, right? And the city staff will go, well, you got to get this permit, you got to get this and this and this, so you got to add these lines to your budget, and you got to get, I mean, whatever, right? Like, insurance, and hire somebody to install them and all that stuff, right? So then you will go back and put that into your budget, and that will be part of your proposal. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks, Evangeline. And Evangeline is one of the leadership and steering committee members.
Hi, so I am sponsoring 3 young ladies here. Do we all need to be on the same committee, or can they be on different committees?
Thank you, Renee. The question was, she is the sponsor for 3 youth delegates, and she's wondering if they have to be all on the same committee or if they can be on different committees. And as their sponsor, your responsibility will be for them at budget delegate meetings, and so it's at your discretion. Yeah, and thank you, Renee. That's excellent. Thank you.
Renee's awesome.
Right, let's give her another.
I know you said this has been done in other places. Is there any way we could have like examples of what these proposals look like that have been successfully implemented, just so we kind of have like a structure to follow with ours?
Yes, yeah. So we will be providing a guide for how to go through proposal development. That's based on what other people have done.
If your proposal is based on a collaboration and the collaboration overlaps other idea issues, how logistically could that work?
So this is something that I definitely should have said earlier. Each issue committee is going to be proposing 2 proposals for the ballot. So we've got 7 issue committees, and they each get to propose 2 for the ballot. And if there's any overlap between the different issue committees, I don't know if it will be an issue because each group gets to propose 2. So if, for example, there's a transportation and infrastructure program that is also helping the environment, the people working on transportation and infrastructure can still do that. Yeah, it doesn't need to, it's not meant to be a barrier to the proposal, just to help organize the group.
If any of these proposals assume that we need variances, the city would take care of that part, I'm assuming, right?
Say it again?
Gathering like all the signatures and things like that, or is it something that this is going to be part of the delegate?
The question was if the proposal requires variances, would the city staff take care of it, or would the budget delegates need to take care of it? And gathering signatures, right. And I don't want to make any promises, but it sounds like something that would fall under my job, to gather the signatures, so I think I can do that, yeah.
While you're here, kind of a maybe related question. So the city has a lot of existing plans and frameworks, like the Climate Action and Resilience Plan. At what point and in what way should these proposals take that into account?
I think at the beginning is when they should take those proposals into account. I think the number one prioritizer is going to be the ideas, and whatever the budget delegates want to do is the number one thing, but they will also be provided with any information that we can collect. I'm currently working on collecting information in different issue areas from city staff, but I don't have it ready yet. But for example, the Climate Resilience Action Plan that you referenced is readily available, and I think several different issue committees would benefit from reviewing that.
Can I just add to that variance question? I understand the role of staff, but as a budget delegate, if it was something that required a variance, if you wanted to pass when we get to the voting proposal, you've got to be able to convince those neighbors that are going to be affected by the variance that it's important for them. Otherwise, it's not going to pass because it doesn't meet the feasibility study, the feasibility piece. So in order to go forward, it has to be feasible, and if the neighbors are opposed to it, in the timeline that we have to vote on, it's not going to end up as being one of the folks on the table to vote on. So it's a way of encouraging people to get involved in the voting proposals.
Thanks, Lenny. Another one of our excellent leadership and steering committee members.
I'm wondering what our role in terms of sustainability is. Like, for instance, if we decide to focus on low-cost early childhood education, does that end after a year? Does the city make any commitment to continuing what we started? Or even like lights at James Park, I mean, do we have to worry about maintenance for the next 10 years in our budget? How does that work?
So all of the American Rescue Plan Act funds, which are funding this process, need to be allocated by December of 2024. And so we've got quite a bit of slack there, but they need to be spent by December of 2026. So that's the purview of our budget. So any programs that you all propose, the funding for that will run out in December of 2026. Right, and so for lights, for example, I think that would be, right, yeah, so this, right, the city, it's this, at the city's discretion if they want to continue a program, find new budget for that or not. But, so it's just until 2026, so, yeah. Just one thing to add to that, it's hard to end popular programs.
So I wanted to build off of that. Does that mean we should make our proposals something that's, you know, pretty much one and done spending wise, or should we make a, okay, I'm already seeing the no's. Does that mean we should factor into our plan how this will continue after the ARPA funding runs out.
You can, but you don't have to.
You can, but you don't have to.
Yeah, so the response from our leadership committee, who's lovingly backing me up, is that you can factor it in how it might be funded in the future, but you don't have to for your proposals.
So the other part of how we've been thinking about the whole PV process is that, well, we're doing it with the ARPA funds right now, but if it goes well, and if we get like a lot of popular programs, maybe we expand it to do participatory budgeting with more of the city's usual budget. And so, like, factor in the time that we need to spend ARPA funds if that is what makes sense to you, but there are going to be plenty of ways to keep this going beyond the next 3 years.
Thanks, Jackson. Okay, and I would like to, just in respect of your time, maybe 3 more minutes maximum.
So within the city budget, there is also what is known as community development block grant money, which would be the next step for us to convince the city to allow that to be done by participatory budgeting. And so if these proposals go forward and they're excited and they're good, you can easily see how some of that CDBG money could be spent to continue some of the more popular programs.
So Lenny is feeling optimistic about the possibility of future funding. And Jackson, yeah. But don't, yeah. So we've got confidence, but from my position, I can't. These are the constraints.
But if you're good at what you do,
And get to know your city councilors.
your voice matters. It matters.
With that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Matt E., one of the lead technical assistants.
Cool. Thank you, Suzanne. Table 2. And let's see, this table 3. Thank you. And Bonnie's talking.
Good morning, everyone. Our area was environment, food, and sustainability, and we really decided on 2 areas we want to focus. There was a lot of overlaps on our ideas, and so food insecurity or food needs, grocery stores, fresh food, gardens, that was one area we looked at. And then our other area was the environment and the importance of trees being planted, being cared for, and keeping us cool. Discussion really flowed. I think that we all were very committed to it, and it went very well.
All right, thank you, table 3, environment. All right, now table 4. Who's our facilitator? Renee. Whether she wants to or not.
So we're still kind of thinking through our ideas. So we had 4 that we kind of combined and kind of included them in one thing. So like with wraparound services, and then underneath that we included like mental health and like the access to therapy and like other things like that. We also had neighborhood-based primary care, and then we had affordable housing in every ward, and then subsidized early childhood education, and then we were kind of in discussion about like access to like cultural education within the ward, so including like the history of Black and brown individuals in Evanston, and kind of tying that in with investing in outlets for expression for those populations as well. So we didn't really go on that, but we were like in the middle of like tweaking out all the fine details and everything. So.
Okay, and what's something you noticed about the discussion?
Mental health was very important. So we had like most of the options that were selected all dealt with mental health. So that's why we combined like those 4 ideas under wraparound services, because they all tie together eventually.
Excellent. Table 4.
And then table 5, education. Who's that? Aliyah. Right right, and share a top idea and something you noticed about the discussion.
Okay, we had a couple of top ideas. Some of them were free after-school tutoring programs for District 65 and District 202. And also programs to help kids whose education, who lost education progress due to COVID. And then another thing that we really wanted to focus on was inclusivity. And we wanted to go focus on potential multicultural center, including sexuality and gender and LGBTQ, with the collaboration of Northwestern, since they like to focus on diversity and all types of inclusivity in Evanston.
And what's one thing you noticed about the discussion?
I noticed that everybody was really focused and everybody's voices, they all wanted to hear everybody's voices be shared in the group.
All right.
And table 6, who's your facilitator? Adalia.
Yeah, so we were economic development, and we were really focused on uplifting small businesses and increasing accessibility to begin small businesses. So our top idea was essentially a business incubator. So we're providing space with lowered rent for small businesses to come in and try out different ideas, potentially providing grants for them so that the cost of starting their small business is lowered, and just sort of increasing the small business community, allowing different people to enter the economic system in Evanston.
And one thing you noticed about the discussion?
I think everyone was really passionate about it. We were able to all sort of build on each other's ideas and include a lot of different priorities within each idea. So.
All right, table 6
Thank you, Adalia. And last but not least, table 7. Do you have a facilitator?
We're sharing.
Okay. Oh, somewhere over here.
Okay, so our top idea was community engagement partnership with THS, specifically for lower income students and students disproportionately impacted by certain programs within THS that are more exclusive, just to make sure that they still have pathways for socioeconomic advancement. And that could look like community partnership, that could look like a partnership with Western students. I think there are a lot of different avenues to do that, but yeah, we talked a lot about different pathways for like youth engagement and community building.
And one of the questions was, why just limit it to ETHS students? So, but one of the things was that our table had a lot of questions. So we spent a lot of time asking questions and thinking about why can't we combine different ideas? And I think we didn't know that we could just combine them. So our next go around, we'll definitely combine ideas.
Excellent. And what's the, yeah, that's great.
Thank you, table 7. Let's hear for table 7. All right, good work there, everyone. So remember, today's discussion is not like your final choice about issue committee. It's not your final choice about what ideas to advance. It's just to give you a taste of some of the work you'll be doing. So you'll do a lot of discussion and prioritizing like this. You're also going to be doing a lot of research, which is both finding out what kind of programs work, but also what people in the community want. And then we're going to be doing a lot of writing proposals. So that's what the work of being a budget delegate is. So I want to thank you all for coming today. Excellent work. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. And I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to give us some next steps about how you can get signed up to be budget delegates.
Thank you, Matt. And as he said, we really appreciate you all coming. One of the goals for today was to see if you wanted to be a budget delegate. And we are currently doing, or what's on the screen right now is a when to meet with a QR code. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have like any way to sign up immediately because we want to give you all the dates so you know if you can commit to them or not prior to the getting started and getting committed to these to work. So the when to meet is very simple, and so if you aren't familiar with QR codes or don't want to use that, it's basically what's the best day of the week for you to meet, and the question is more even more specific. It's like what days can you meet, because we're really trying to find the time that works for as many people as possible. Just understand that this is several people, or maybe 50 people here, so not everyone's calendars are going to work, but we're really trying to find the time that works best for everyone. So that's what that is. I see some people still trying to scan, so we'll see. I'll give everyone a minute. If you can do it now, that's great. And if you have a piece of scratch paper to write down and deliver those to Indona, who's at the exit table. So just give them to Indona at the end. The options on the when to meet are basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. What's that? Well, yeah, we wouldn't schedule it on the same day as City Council. Or Saturday, like today. Okay, I see some folks still trying to scan, but I'm going to move on and we can put this back up at the very end if we need to. So, like I was saying, after we have a date selected, which is just going to be whichever date is most popular on that poll, we'll send out everyone a sign-up form to officially become a budget delegate. We also need facilitators for each group, so you all kind of deputize the facilitator today. And if that person is open to being the facilitator throughout the whole process, that's excellent. And so we need 2 or more people from each issue committee to be facilitators. And those people are going to do a little bit of extra training on how to be a facilitator, and their role is going to be to remain neutral throughout the process and work to ensure equity and that the PB principles are adhered to. They're also going to be supporting the budget delegates to assist in finding meeting places and times, setting up group meetings, and ensuring that everyone contributes throughout those meetings, and keep the budget delegates engaged throughout. And they're also going to kind of assist in communication outside of the budget delegate meetings. I see a couple hands, so I'll go to, yeah.
Is there any like external communication with everyone here? I know we're gonna have like communication within our committees, but is there like an overall like Slack or anything that we can communicate with each other committees?
The question was, is there a way to communicate with other committees outside of committee meetings? And right now, there's not. But if we really need to, we can try and figure something out. But we don't currently have a Slack, for example.
How many people here would want that?
Okay, it seems like there's a great deal of interest in having like a whole participatory budget delegate Slack, perhaps. So yeah. What's up?
Slack is like a platform where it's like, think of it as like a mega group chat where you can divide into different group chats. It's online, and the idea would be like each committee has like a different channel where you're able to communicate with your other committee members, but you're able to communicate with other committees on that same platform.
So I was just wanting to basically ask to clarify, because I noticed that like we have affordable housing that came up in our group, but then also I think table number 1 maybe had affordable housing. So I think there is like a definite need to have some type of communication, because we don't want to spend time doing a proposal on affordable housing if table 1 is going to be doing it. That's like a waste of money for a proposal like this.
Okay, so it seems like I'm getting signals that say we're going to set up a way for everyone to communicate. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, but we're gonna figure out a way to make sure that everyone is communicating outside of just their committee. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you.
A lot of people in this room outside of the participatory budget process are advocates within the city. So if I'm doing housing, I always give the city council a hard time about affordable housing. Is that separate? So can I still do that if I'm a facilitator? I want to make sure.
Yes, so that's a great question, Lenny. Yeah, can you still be an advocate outside of your participatory budgeting committee? Yeah. Okay, we've got, I've got hands over here, and then I'm gonna finish the presentation and we'll do question and answer at the end. So maybe I've got Pat and Liz Treadway, and then.
So maybe one of the ways we could keep our communicating between the groups is the facilitators can just do that. That was just
Okay. Thanks, Pat.
Well, I think the majority of people here are advocates, period. And so I don't think there's any reason why anyone cannot advocate outside of this group, because this is a different process that supports the efforts of the city.
Agreed.
My question was just because this group is such a large group, and how are we gonna implement the ideas? Because all of the ideas were not included on that. So how can we, you see how large the group is?
Right. And it would have been larger, y'all just didn't have room over there for somebody else that wanted to come.
Yeah, so.
I don't know.
Right, so the idea is that we're going to ask you to sign up for your top 3 budget delegate committees and hopefully balance it a little bit. But also, if you're really interested in one, we're not going to stop anyone from being in the group that they want to be. And then it's the facilitator's job to make sure that everyone's idea is heard.
It's not that, it's just the group is so large. We didn't have enough time.
Right, okay, yeah, so we didn't have enough time to do everything today because the group is large, but the idea was just to practice. So in the future, there will be more time. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the groups can meet outside of this if they want, and I'm gonna give Renee the last question, and then I'm gonna finish the presentation, and then I'm happy to answer questions after.
With being a facilitator, and you have to remain neutral through the process and work to ensure equity, how can we still submit ideas? Can we still, what are the boundaries with being a facilitator in that regard?
Yeah, so hopefully the ideas have already been submitted, and then the idea is just to have someone managing the conversation. And there's lots of research showing that the person managing the conversation shouldn't have their top motive should be making sure the conversation is good, not trying to advocate for any one thing or showing biases towards any one thing during the conversation. So that's the spirit of that part of the role. So any facilitators, hopefully you all have an idea of who's going to be a facilitator at your table. And just meet me, I'm gonna be over by the piano after the meeting, and we're going to discuss when a good time to meet to do facilitator training is gonna be. And then the other thing is, I'm wondering if people are interested in forming a demographic committee. A demographic committee is for budget delegates who face major obstacles to participating in issue committees. They may form, if they do, they may form a special demographic committee. Demographic affinity committees are meant to ensure maximum participation from community members who might not otherwise participate. The goal isn't to divide or separate members of the community. So potential demographic communities that other communities have had are youth, non-English speaking, or seniors. And the idea is that these are folks that might have a really hard time participating unless this is an option. So if anyone is interested in forming a demographic committee, I know this says see Matt O, but I'm going to send you to Celia. Celia, can you raise your hand? Celia is going to be standing over by the podium after, so if you're interested in forming a demographic committee for any of those reasons. The demographic committee is a group of folks that think that they're going to have a really hard time participating unless they have their own group. So if they might have a really hard time communicating with other folks or working with other folks, then they can form a demographic committee. And based on interest in that, we don't really know what that's going to look like, but based on interest on that, we'll bring proposals to this steering committee, the leadership committee that's leading this whole process, and they will decide what role a demographic committee can play in the budget delegate process. So to wrap up, if you haven't filled out the when to meet, please fill it out. I'll put the QR code back up. Keep an eye out for the emails. We've got all of your emails. I'm gonna make a list, and we know the list is good now that we collected everything. And then for meet if you're willing to be a facilitator, and meet Celia over by the podium if you want to be form a demographic committee. I see a couple hands, and then we're going to wrap up.
Will this presentation be emailed to us?
Will the presentation be emailed? Yeah. Yeah, thanks. This slide deck, yeah.
I did not receive an email about this meeting. I went online and I've submitted my information 4 times to be a delegate. I don't know why I did not get an email.
I agree, Ms. Treadway. I'm sorry about that, and we'll get it straight for the next one. Okay, thanks, Ms. Treadway. Okay, yeah, it might be going to spam because we're using a CRM, a platform that sends mass emails, so it sometimes goes to spam. It looks like okay. So, are there any more questions before we wrap up?
This is like a logistical question. Is there any way the PowerPoint can be sent to us after this meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Well, is there any way you're planning on sending out the...
We can't hear, we can't hear.
Really?
Yeah.
You want me to sing?
No, this is the people were talking, go ahead.
Okay, oh, thank you. Can these sort of descriptions, ideas from the various tables be sent around for people who maybe are interested, would be interested in another?
In talking, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, just making more difficult.
No, it's okay. And giving me more work, right, that's my job. So don't be afraid to do that, and we'll make sure that the different ideas, the test ideas, go around to every group so that everyone has an idea of what was considered at the other groups. Yeah.
For students who might not be here during the summer, would that bar us from being a delegate if we're like going home, for example, after the school year?
If you are going away for a while for any reason, it's just going to be your responsibility to communicate with the facilitator of your group. But it doesn't prevent you from being a budget delegate. with that, I just want to say thank you all one more time. I really appreciate you all coming on Saturday for 2 hours. It's not a small thing. There's a little bit more food in the back. And yeah, just a hand for you all one more time.
If anyone was having issues scanning the QR code, I put up a quick URL, yelp.com/task that you can type into your browser. That should take you to the same page.